Hi, Julie.
Hi, Davina.
Hi. So, this is our online poster presentation for the European Music Therapy Conference 2022. And we're doing it in a bit of a different way. We are using Google Meets and we have got closed caption subtitles on. And we are going to talk a little bit about our project that the abstract talked about Brass the Saff, and because you're Northerner, you say Brass to the Saff,
Yes,
and I say Brass to the Saff.
Brass the Saff rhymes.
It does. It sounds much better, but I just can't say Brass. So tell me a little bit about Brass the Saff, the project.
Brass the Saff was the third brass band I had co-founded. The first one was way back in 2004 at another primary school, but the second one was as a beginner band for an established competing brass band. And it was really to recruit new players, because brass bands need a constant stream of new players, and it's hard work and it can be unrewarding if you don't really love it. And at that time I realized that I really loved getting people involved, but I didn't know where I was leading them to, because I felt that the excitement of learning an instrument and the joy of performing with other people was kind of getting lost as players progressed more towards the competition level. So that really led me to thinking about brass bands much more in terms of community engagement. And Brass of the Saff was actually it was originally intended as an after-school club, which the head teacher invited drum and brass to start at her school, because she'd introduced whole class teaching for 3 full years at the school to impact confidence, resilience and academic achievement. And it was doing that, and she wanted a school band. And again, I took a slightly different slant, because I felt that a community band with parental and family involvement was really what I wanted to do. And with the support of Brass Bands England and some youth music funding, we were able to slow down the process and sit down with parents and children to say what would this band look like. And they said they wanted it to be inclusive, and they wanted it to be, and this was a primary school, but gender inclusiveness was mentioned, and diversity was mentioned, and so the band was fully representative of the local community. And I feel that I'm still connected with parents from that community. And I think that was really a big part of the value of the band. The music was great. The children played, they learnt, it took a long time. They learnt, we learnt, but we performed at local gatherings, and we performed with another local band, Southfield's Concert Band, who provided that progression route for the young people. So the young people, if they progressed really in their playing, they could join in Southfield's band, move on, still come back and help the younger players. And a lot of players did that. 6 players, when they left Marriott Primary School, came back from secondary school every week to play with the younger players at Brass the Saff.
Amazing. And I remember you did a podcast, didn't you, with 2 of the young the young players, Melissa, was it?
Melissa and Jake.
Jake, yeah. And that can be found on the Drum and Brass website, can't it?
Can it?
I assume so. So do you think that the diversity that you had at the Saff band was due just to location, or did you do anything particular to kind of push that agenda?
I think it was location, and by being clear that it was for all families and talking to people. We didn't do anything different, to be fair, to make it. We made it inclusive, as in we had a couple of, it wasn't just one person running the band, it was three people, because we wanted people who could sit by the children and help them read the notes and help them with confidence, because there was a lot of social and emotional need within the group. And it was just a very warm and engaging group. The children really enjoyed coming every week. We managed to squeeze in music medals, so that, you know, they got awards, they got arts awards on our residences. It was everything that a proper music group should be, but it didn't cost the earth.
And so was diversity part of your remit then? I know you kind of explained that
it became more important when we went to the youth champs at Warwick, and we were unaware of the significance of our band and its diverse membership until we went there and realised that everyone was white, and that we caused a bit of a stir.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What did that look like?
Well, the organisers came to talk to Sheila and said, "This is amazing. We've got this band here. We want to get in touch with you and talk to you about it." So they did. The Brass Bands England people came and talked to us about it and wanted to know how it had been done.
By just changing the location to out of county, like in the city as opposed to the county.
And perhaps that's not attractive for a lot of music teachers, because in Leicestershire, at Leicester, the music teaching is outside the city, where perhaps it feels a little bit easier and more comfortable.
And which ties in with the idea that music teaching and music playing is actually quite middle class and elitist.
Well, I think it's become that way because that's the easier. Those families and children are perhaps the easiest to work with if you have not learned how to teach or how to work with groups, or if you've just come through the music education system just by learning grades and performing, what would you know of the challenges of working in the inner city, or working with special needs, or even mixed ability groups? You wouldn't. No. You couldn't.
No.
So okay. I think that really helps to have a teaching background.
Yeah, you're very passionate about the pedagogy and and teaching comes first. The music thing can happen whenever, can't it? But the teaching bit comes first.
I think the teaching thing is teachers can teach, and our job is to be constantly pursuing the good ways of teaching our subject.
So the development then from Brass the Saff has been the No Bars Orchestra. Can you give me a little bit of detail about that?
Yes, I have a love of and a belief in the experimental approach to music and I'm talking about Pauline Oliveira's deep listening, where you hear music in the world around you. Everything has a rhythm or a tone or a melody, and to hear that and to express that with instruments it feels very much perhaps what music started out as, a sort of way of bringing nature into the family and into the home. And so I think also that the formal music approach, where you go through grades and you learn the scales and da 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 da, it can knock the musicality out of it. But
absolutely, amen to that.
It surely allows people to come in, be expressive at their own level, and it's a leveler. It doesn't matter whether you're a world-class player or if you're a beginner, you still can make a sound that expresses something in that group.
Kind of what music therapy is based on, and it's why you get so many musicians enter into the world of music therapy and they start the course, and the one thing that terrifies them the most is improvisation, because it's just not taught. But even if it is taught, it's taught in such a colonized, rudimentary way, with a set of rules and things that you can't do.
Yes, dread the wrong note in an improvisation.
Yeah, I say embrace the wrong note. You know, it's so it's interesting. So the No Bars Orchestra, and I guess I'm just guessing from the name of it, No Bars, as in no barriers.
No barriers. And
no barriers.
Yes, and if you want, no bar lines.
No bar lines, lovely. So that's an experimental approach to music making, but I'm guessing so with inclusivity at its heart.
I think the pure experimental approach is too airy-fairy for reality.
Sure. Okay.
And I think what No Bars is that magical marriage of a project approach to music making, where you've got a theme. It's like the best kind of teaching, where you've got a theme, everyone can input into that theme. It might be a formal technical theme of learning this kind of a rhythm. It could be a topic, or as they started with a film, like here's a silent film, make a film track, sound effects. So it just allows so much creativity, and it's not all focused on one pressurized performance where it's got to be right. There is sharing of the music, but it's a much more of a celebration of a journey. And so the real joy happens all along that journey in the rehearsal room. It's not really rehearsing, it's exploring and going on an adventure every week together.
Sounds an amazing way to start an orchestral journey, or start to think about learning an instrument. Like, it sounds like the first step, as opposed to the traditional method is to kind of learn an instrument, you know all your notes, you've got to grade 2 or 3, maybe 4, and then you go into an orchestra where you kind of required to read music and play in a certain way and play certain pieces, and there's a set repertoire, like you have to do certain pieces. Whereas this sounds like it's the other way around. You go in and play and experience what it's like to play music with other people, and then you go, I'd really like to learn a bit more. Actually, I want to learn how to read music. Is that
yes,
true?
I pretty much need to know this and that note. I wonder how that works. In fact, I went to the Experimental Music Catalogue had a conference a few years back at De Montfort University, and I asked Chris Hobbs, who's a experimental composer who lives in Leicester, how you learn, if you've got no musical ability, how do you get to be an experimental player? Because it seemed that they were all musicians coming into playing with already the skills. But I said, well, what about a beginner wanting to follow into that genre? And he said, well, you kind of learn as you learn what you need as you're going along, as you come to and so this is it. This is that in practice.
I see so many parallels in music therapy, because I think that's how we go into the music side of improvisation. We kind of, you do your qualification, you come out of it after 2 years, and then you kind of go and learn on the job. You're in situations where you have this basic skill set, and you're kind of, every situation will bring up a new challenge, a new way of thinking, or a new way of trying to play with music to communicate. So,
it's the real music, isn't it? It's the music as communication, as connection, as conversation without language, which frees you, doesn't it, to be other and to separate from the mundane. It's a wonderful thing that so many people feel that they're not allowed to do, but we are allowed to do it. We're allowed to pick up a cello or a sitar or a mandolin or a flute. We are, and play.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.